Heather Roy.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Speaker. The ACT Party supports this apology to Vietnam veterans alongside all other political parties in this House. Our Vietnam veterans served with as much heroism and distinction as the veterans of all other wars, and yet they flew home under cover of darkness so that their return would not become the focus of demonstrations. That these men and a small number of women had endured great privation in the service of their country never seemed to have entered the national consciousness, despite the 37 fatalities and 187 wounded. Our veterans have many reasons to be proud. New Zealand's contribution included a large humanitarian component, but when our forces did go into action, they did so with great bravery. Our force was unusual in being entirely voluntary. During the Vietnam War, the Anzac spirit was reignited as a combined Australia and New Zealand battalion was formed. At the Battle of Long Tan, for example, Australian infantry distinguished themselves during an engagement with a much larger enemy force, supported by New Zealand artillery. Some of our troops also served with other Allied forces in theatre, particularly the United States. We shouldn't forget the breadth of contribution made by New Zealanders in Vietnam, which included the Navy, all corps and regiments of the New Zealand Army, the Air Force, as well as many civilians. While much has been done regarding medallic recognition of campaign service for these groups, the matter of approval of foreign awards for individual acts of gallantry is yet to be resolved. Our returning soldiers should at least have been treated with respect. They had served with bravery and professionalism. They had a proud record of assistance to civilians, and yet on their return they weren't treated with respect that those serving their country are entitled to. Whilst it was a government decision to send troops to Vietnam, it was the troops themselves who frequently bore the brunt of public anger and antagonism. This was both unfortunate and undeserved. There were further consequences for other military personnel, such as the decision for Defence Force personnel in Wellington to wear civilian clothes at the time rather than their uniforms to avoid confrontation. Servicemen and women judge operations not only in terms of success or failure, but in terms of lessons learned. What have we as a country learned? An apology today is important in terms of recognition of an injustice, but daily actions are the measure of real intent. Parliament has work to do yet to ensure that no veteran of a future conflict can ever find themselves in the circumstances that these servicemen and women and their families found themselves. We need to change the many statutes that determine entitlements and protections for any citizen serving their country. This weekend's Tribute 08 programme is a long overdue acknowledgement and recognition of the sacrifices made by those who participated in the Vietnam War wearing the New Zealand uniform. My own small but long-standing tribute to these fine New Zealanders has been to donate all that I have and will earn as a Territorial Force soldier to an RSA-approved charity, the Tasman Fund, its proceeds going mainly to Vietnam veterans and their families. I chose this charity because these veterans were, in my opinion, the most unappreciated in our history. Few have said it better than singer-songwriter Eric Bogle, and I quote, "Though that Asian war's long over, they're still burying their dead. Yet somehow their bonds grow stronger with each broken thread." Madam Speaker, the ACT Party salutes all those who participated in this campaign, and we thank them for serving their country. And to the families of those who died and who have subsequently suffered, we acknowledge and appreciate their hurt and their sacrifices. Kia kaha, lest we forget.